Today I've got a really unique design that I've come up with. I've come up with this, what I'm calling space travel. So I've got in here, this is my nebula normal coloring, and then I've got a piece of aluminum honeycomb going at a 45-degree angle. Sometimes I cut it at 30, sometimes I've cut it at 45. It just kind of depends on how much I feel like dealing with an angle that day. But either way, you're going to have an angle of aluminum honeycomb in here. And then I cast up little sphere planets. And so here I've got two planets, both with green and blue here. And then I've got a red and orange planet over here on the front end. I always put one planet up above the aluminum honeycomb, then I'll put in the aluminum honeycomb, and then I'll put one on the side of the blank. That way your planets aren't all on the same side of the pen, so that they're in a different orientation on the pen as you turn around and go. As I said, these planets are a half sphere, so they'll go about halfway, a little past halfway into your blank, and they are domed shaped, so they do cone out, so they're going to get smaller as you turn them down. So do be aware of that when you're planning out your cutting. And then speaking of cutting, when cutting these up, do be aware of like where your planets are going to end up, where your aluminum honeycomb is going to end up, because you want to make that show up. You want to make it pop. You want those to be the central feature. So I'm going to put it right to the edge of the brass here. And because I know that that planet is domed, that it's going to end up somewhere in the middle of the brass. So I'm going to go right to the edge of where that planet's at. And then that'll end up right at the top of my pen. And that's also going to allow me to get all of the aluminum honeycomb in the cap section. And then the other two planets will be in the bottom section in the body. So I'm going to cut that right there. Let me get a pen here. And when working with these dark blanks, I really like using a silver Sharpie to mark lines. It just makes life a little bit easier. So we'll put a line right there for our cut line. See? Just like that. So with it cut right there, I'll have that planet right at the top of my cap. So we will mark cap on here, put our concentricity line right here, and then we can cut off the body right down here. And as you can see with that body line, it's going to have both planets in the body. One will be up right toward where your gripping section is, and then one will be near the post cap. So that's going to work out really well. We're going to be doing a bandit rollerball today. The neat thing about this, just like doing a ring core kit, you can put an inlay inside your center band. Really a neat design, really cool to see these coming out from Exotic Blanks. I haven't seen them anywhere else. These are stainless steel, so you don't have to worry about standing up against the center band there, because it's stainless steel all the way through. You're not going to expose any finish. The only thing that's not stainless steel is the clip, and the clip is like an antiqued Junior Gentleman series clip. And speaking of Junior Gentleman, your tube sizes are the exact same as a Junior Gentleman, and your bushings are actually Junior Gentleman 2. So that makes life a little bit easier. If you already have a Junior Gentleman bushing set, then you already can make the Bandit. You don't have to buy the starter pack and get all the stuff. If you've already got the 10.5 and 12.5 millimeter drill bits, you're off to the races already with this kit. And one thing to note as well is that this is the Nebula kit. They do need a black background. So when you drill those out, do paint your tubes and your drill hole black in order to make sure that you get a nice perfect space background. I'm going to get those cut and we'll get this drilled out and turned. One thing to note is that I have honeycomb right here on the end. It actually goes off the end and into the body. Because that honeycomb is right against the edge, you want to be very deliberate when you're working on this end of the blank where the honeycomb is exposed to the bushing, because your catches on your honeycomb are much more likely to happen at that end. So do be careful. I highly recommend Easy Wood Tools. I think this is the R2 with negative rake. It turns this stuff a lot easier like that. And of course, working with aluminum, a face mask is warranted. All right, that's about the most scared I've been turning a piece in a while, but that looks really good. But man, tell you what, every time that I had to approach this edge, I was not holding my breath, I was touching it on the exhale, kind of like a marksman does right before he's about to take a shot. Like breathe out, approach it real slow. Once I touched it and started moving, then I'd inhale and take my breath. But just trying to be as steady as I could every time I had to touch this edge. That turned out really good. I'm gonna get that switched around. We'll turn the body. Should be a lot less hairy turning the body than it was turning this. Now with the Bandit, do be aware that the center band is larger than the post end. So you have a slight taper going this way. I turn my tool just slightly that way in order to account for that. We'll have 2 planets on this end. See how this turns out. Oh, what was that? Oh, thank God. Whew. Scared me. Had to watch a little piece fly off right there, but it's just because of that little piece of silver flake. Okay, gotta take a little slower now. We're getting down to our final size. Alright, I'm gonna get this polished up and then a CA finish on these. Those planets look awesome. I am so excited to see this all done. So now I've got my center band in between a couple of non-stick bushings here. We're just going to get our inlay put into the center band. Going to be doing a Deep Space themed center band here, inspired by Patrick Adair Designs. Patrick Adair Supplies is where I got the supplies for this. So we're going to be doing a Deep Space themed center band on Patrick Adair Designs rings that they have. So it's got malachite, it's got amethyst, it's got green, blue, and violet pigment powders, and then glow powders to boot. So we're going to get this started. Supposedly my phone now has a new time-lapse feature that I'm going to try out, so we'll see if this works. Hopefully it does. Last time-lapse I did, I could not keep it focused on what I was working on. But now that my phone has its own time-lapse, I'm hoping it'll work better. Let's see. Okay, well, we got our center band done. And that looks downright amazing. Turned out really, really good. And then John didn't know I was going to do this, and I didn't film exactly how to do this, but I did film like doing the inlay itself. But yeah, you can absolutely replace the standard post cap that comes in this with your own inlay. So I did a nice galaxy inlay on that. So that'll be a surprise for him. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put our end pieces in. Double check your concentricity line, and then we'll get our glue. And we'll just put a dot of glue in both ends. Perfect fitment. That feels really good. All right, now we can take our grip, put that in before we forget which end that goes on. Drop our ink in, and then you have a spring here that needs to go inside your post cap, like that. It's got a wide end and a skinny end. The wide end goes toward the back of your post cap, skinny end toward your ink, and that threads on just like so. Okay, now we need to line up our concentricity line, which was right here. Concentricity line is there, so that would go on just like that. I think what I'm going to do is when I get close, to make sure I don't get any plastic squeeze out, I'm just going to put a dot of glue in that bead right there, right when I get close. But I'll put glue in the cap here now. I'm just going to put my clip going right down the middle of that honeycomb. A little too much glue. Get some of that glue off. Not all of it. There we go. A little bit of glue in the track there. And then we will drive that the rest of the way home. I'm going to hold a shop towel right at the top here as I squeeze the last bit in case there's any glue squeeze out. There we have it. Our Space Travel Bandit is complete. We got our red and orange planet right there at the top, like I planned. I think I'm going to do a 30-degree angle instead of 45. Putting that aluminum honeycomb only in the upper section a little simpler. As you can see, it went all the way down to the clip, and all the way down to the center band, and that'll make that section a little bit less hairy working around next time. Because this is a 45, I'm gonna put it at like a 30 next time. That'll make that easier. Couple of blue and green planets down here. Got beautiful reflections in there. I'll get some better photos. This is not quite showing up as good as it could. So there's our red and orange planet right there on the top. And then our green and blue planets there on the bottom. Yeah, it turned out really good. It's got nice blue and purple, a couple of little red splotches in the space areas. Space area ended up really dark, which I'm okay with. A lot of space junk out there floating around. It's really nice. Really happy with how that turned out. All right, I'm gonna get that shipped off to John.